Hello and welcome to the channel. Legend has it that this game was played during a performance of Rossini's opera The Barber of Seville at the Paris Opera in 1858. The best player in the world had the white pieces against the Duke of Brunswick and Count Isouard, who consulted against the master. It's not a long game, but instructive in that it showcases the importance of development in the opening and the principle of sacrificing from a superior position. If you're interested in the history of this game, I'll leave a link in the description, but now let's dive in. So the game starts with e4, and after the first few moves we have the Philidor defense, and Morphy plays d4. And already here on the third move, the Count and the Duke make sort of a mistake. The simple thing to do here is just to take on d4, but instead they play bishop g4. And the reason why this is a sort of a mistake is that after Morphy's reply e takes d5, you are now forced to give up your bishop for the knight, because if you take on e5 then you just simply lose the pawn like this, queen trade, and knight takes e5, so that's no good obviously for black, which means that in this position you have to take on f3, which they did. But now after queen takes and d takes e5, bishop c4, white is already doing quite well here, threatening mate in one move on f7. If you play a move like queen f6, there will follow queen b3, threatening the pawn on b7, and it's not so simple to deal with actually. What else can you do really besides b6? But then after knight c3, if you play c6, then there is a really nice line with knight d5 anyway. And after c takes d5, white now gives a check on b5. And let's say you play knight c6. Now white could take on d5 with a winning position, but he has an even stronger move with bishop g5, and basically black is toast here. So if we go back to this position after bishop c4 threatening mate in 1, they could have played queen f6, but then maybe we would have seen something along those lines that we just saw. Instead they played knight f6 to defend against the mate. But Morphy now plays queen b3 also in this line, and this is a huge problem already, because well, there's a threat to take on f7, but there is also a threat to take on b7, and there's no way to meet both of those threats. So the noblemen decided to defend f7 with queen e7, and I think maybe they were hoping for the move queen takes b7, which is winning for white, but black can now play queen b4 and survive into an endgame. This is a forced trade of queens obviously. And although white is winning after c3, black can play on and the game won't be spectacular anymore. So that's why Morphy's move here in this position after queen e7 is instructive, because he just simply plays knight c3, develops another piece. So now also the knight on c3 is threatening to come up to d5 in some cases, so the Duke and the Count, they decided to counter with c6 to plug the d5 square, and Morphy just continues developing. Out comes another piece and pinning the knight on f6. This actually, if you look at this position, this puts black in an incredibly difficult position. So for example, you can't develop the knight on b8 because then the pawn on b7 falls. And you can't develop your bishop on f8. For example, if you try a move like g6, it just really doesn't work after bishop takes f6 and then queen takes b7. So what are you really left with? Well, if you try to unclog your position by moving the queen, let's say you play queen c7, then white just simply castles long, puts the rook on the open file, and white's lead in development will simply soon tell. Black is really in huge trouble. And if you try the move queen d7 to stop white from long castling, then there is rook d1, and again black just has some serious problems no matter what he does. So they tried the move b5, but here with his lead in development, Morphy simply sacrifices the knight on b5, and after they took this knight with c takes b5, there follows bishop takes b5 check. So he already has 2 pawns for the knight, but that's not really the main point. After knight bd7, he now castles long on the queen side, and look at how the black pieces are pinned. They're stepping on each other's toes, as I like to say sometimes. The bishop on f8 and the rook on h8 are just completely out of the game, and white already has a ton of threats, mainly to take on f6 and then on d7 with those pinned knights. So naturally the black players decide now to defend their knight on d7, but Morphy, he now takes on d7. Not really much of a sacrifice, because, well, you can't take with a knight, can't take with a queen, you have to take with a rook. And after he develops now his last piece, this exchange sacrifice is not really a sacrifice, as I said, because the rook on d7 is still pinned. And what can black do? Well, he has to try to unclock his position. They desperately want to castle their king, and so job number 1 obviously is to get the queen out of the way so that the bishop on f8 can move, but it is just already too late. White, with all of his developed pieces, won't give black the chance to castle. So after queen e6, offering to trade queens, of course Morphy doesn't want to trade queens, he just wants to finish in style. So the winning sequence here is bishop takes d7 check, and after the obvious reply knight takes d7, this is the moment where you might want to pause a little bit and try to find how he finishes the game. It's quite beautiful, and the move is queen b8 check. So as you can see, this is a queen sacrifice that black has to accept, and after knight takes b8, there is rook d8 checkmate. A great example of why a lead in development is really a strong thing, why developing your pieces rapidly in the opening is so important, because then you can do things like this. And incidentally, this is, if you're interested in mating patterns, this is a mating pattern called the opera mate for, I hope, obvious reasons. But I thank you very much for watching this game, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.